Hello, ma'am. Can we start?
Yes, ma'am. No problem. Should I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. You can try sharing your screen.
Okay.
Good afternoon, all. We may now proceed for session 3 for the day. I am Ms. Shraddha on behalf of JSPM's Rajarshi Shahu College of Engineering, Department of Electronics and Telecommunication, would like to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Shraddha Habbu, ma'am, Assistant Professor in Vishwakarma Institute of Information Technology. Ma'am has her master's and bachelor's degree in engineering from Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Engineering, Pune. Currently, ma'am is pursuing PhD from AISSMS Institute of Information Technology, Pune, in the area of biomedical signal processing domain. The research topic is development of non-invasive technique for blood glucose estimation using photoplethesmography. Ma'am is working in biomedical projects in association with Walker Hospital, Chipling. Ma'am had 70+ years of experience in electronics and telecommunication curriculum development and delivery. She has number of publications in national and international journals and conferences. Her area of interest are biomedical engineering, biomedical signal processing, VLSI. Ma'am has assisted the Institute ISO Coordinator from 2012 to 2017, assisted to Dean Quality and Institute ISO Coordinator from 2017 to 2019, and also has been awarded as a Best Employee under Assistant Professor category in 2019 for the academic year 2018-19. Ma'am has published her patent titled Non-Invasive Blood Glucose Estimation using pulse technique with septal coefficients. She has also worked as in curriculum development, subject chairman, and paper setter in biomedical signal processing and biomedical electronics in SPPU Pune. As a resource person in syllabus detailing for biomedical signal processing and biomedical electronics to Faculty of Electronics and Telecommunication. Ma'am, on behalf of JSPM, Rajarshi Shahu College of Engineering and Department of ENTC, I welcome you again, ma'am. And we request you to please start with the session.
Um,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I thank the management of RSCOE and team of Electronics and Telecommunication Department for giving me an opportunity to present my research topic in this faculty development program. To begin with, I will move on to the screen sharing. But if I keep my video off, is it fine? Because I think so we may face some network issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just stop the video. Good afternoon, all. I am Mrs. Shraddha Habbu, and thank you, ma'am, for the lovely introduction. I'm here to present my research work on non-invasive technique for blood glucose estimation using photoplethesmography. I am pursuing my research under the guidance of Dr. Manisha Dale from MES COE College of Engineering. Also, special thanks to Dr. Rajesh Gongde, who is a professor in Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Engineering, and Dr. Shrikant Joshi, working as an associate professor in Vishwakarma Institute of Information Technology. So to begin with, this is just the brief outline of my session, introduction and system overview and implementation, data acquisition system and database, BGL estimation techniques, the feature extraction methods, training models, results, observations, and conclusions. So what is diabetes? Now, diabetes is a very common disease that is observed in humans. It has affected around 425 million people all over the world, and it is projected to rise to 628 million by 2045. It is the inability of the body's immune system to control the blood sugar levels. insulin is a hormone that is produced in the pancreas, which regulates the amount of glucose in the blood. In diabetics, insulin is not produced, or you can say it is ineffective in control of glucose level in the blood. Type 1 and type 2 are the two appropriate terms that are used in the diagnosis of diabetes. Type 1 is called as juvenile diabetes, or it is called insulin dependent diabetes. It is caused due to the autoimmune destruction of the beta cells in the pancreas. So the body produces little or no insulin at all um, in this type, and therefore the patient needs daily dosage of insulin. Type 2, the body pancreas, they generate insulin, but it is ineffective to control the glucose levels. The two main terminologies that you can see here are hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. Hyperglycemia indicates the sugar levels which are higher than the normal range, and hypoglycemia indicates the sugar levels which are below the normal range. The prolonged duration of diabetes can severely affect the human organ systems. It can lead to failure of cardiovascular, renal, and nervous system. It can also cause blindness. Hence, the best way to prevent and control diabetes is to administer the proper insulin dosage. It is necessary to monitor sugar concentration periodically in human body. Thus, blood glucose monitoring helps in diabetes management. Now here we can see some images of current glucose measuring systems. The measurement done in the clinical laboratories. You can also observe these are the self glucose monitoring devices, which are also called as finger prick devices. Then here you can observe which are the wearable type of devices. These are the electrodes that are placed or inserted on the human body and at specific locations. So you have wearable diabetes monitor devices which can be plugged, and uh, in you can observe the effect of continuous glucose monitoring. Here blood sample or drop of blood is taken to estimate the glucose level. So here you can see that in the laboratories or clinical laboratories, we need to take the blood samples, and based on the chemical analytes, here the sugar level has been estimated. Here also it is just a drop of blood, but again we need to prick and then take the blood samples. So in the continuous glucose monitoring devices that are present in the market, the systems initially needs to be self-trained. Okay, so for a period of 8 to 15 days, the data initially is taken as an input, and the network is being trained on the given data set, and after the once the system gets calibration, and then it can be used for monitoring purpose. So these are the limitations which you can observe, that they are invasive in type, and secondly, when these continuous glucose monitorings have been developed, the system needs to be calibrated. Now to this is the based on the literature survey, I present here the different glucose monitoring systems that you can observe. Okay, these are actually classified as invasive system, minimally invasive systems, and non-invasive systems. In 1970s, the first generation glucometers were developed, which used reflectance technology and were heavy devices requiring large amount of blood. As we have seen that in the clinically laboratories, you require a large number of blood sample to test these systems. Second generation devices introduced self-monitoring glucometers, which require just a drop of blood sample to measure the glucose levels. Now, these are compact finger prick devices, which are low cost and allowed for personalized use. But this requires frequent pricking to get the blood samples, which create discomfort to patients and enhances the risk of infection. In long term practice, it can damage the finger tissue, and it can have a disease transferable also. So that is the limitation of second generation devices. Then further, we have the third generation devices, which are minimally invasive devices that includes array of small needles on the skin, and it enabled continuous monitoring of the blood glucose levels. But this technique also may create damage to the skin, and as explained earlier, it requires a calibration system to provide better accuracy. This led to the necessity of developing the fourth generation devices, which are called as the non-invasive devices. Okay, so this is where we are talking about right now, are the NI techniques to implement blood glucose estimation. So the NI techniques use sensors which are placed directly on the human body part, okay, without the insertion of needle or drawing any blood sample. This actually eliminates the painful experience of pricking and minimizes the risk of infection. So non-invasive techniques are further classified into two types, which are the in vitro and in vivo measurements. Now, what is in vitro means? It means when something is performed outside of the living organism. So you take some glucose samples or glucose concentrations, and then you do the measurements outside, or say in the laboratories. So that is called as an in vitro measurement. So here it is given as a photoacoustic spectroscopy that is performed with the help of lasers. So particular type of blood samples or glucose concentrations have been used to estimate their levels using photoacoustic spectroscopy. Now we also have some kind of enzyme based measurement techniques. For example, you must have listened to detection of glucose levels using saliva or tear drop or ear drops. So such kind of sensors are being actually used to get the sample, and then in vitro the measurements are done outside the human body, and then the estimation of glucose levels have been computed. Okay, in vitro means trying to sense the biological signal from the human body surface, and then estimating it using through a device or a system. Okay, so in vivo here, as shown, the measurements of glucose research work is currently going on, computing the glucose levels using bioimpedance, finding out the impedance from the human body and correlating it to the glucose levels. Then the spectroscopic techniques, MR spectroscopy, NIR spectroscopy, based on the here you can see it is a Raman spectroscopy. So different spectroscopy techniques are actually used, but these techniques are actually used only for validation purpose. The system that is being built, these are heavy systems, and they cannot be incorporated in current telemedicine applications. So mobile friend, if you want to design any system which is mobile friendly or telemedicine friendly, then such kind of systems cannot be incorporated. So they are used only for validation purposes. Now NIR techniques are actually gaining importance to find out the correlation between the blood glucose levels and the optical properties. Okay, so here we have the photoplethesmography approach, that which we are going to discuss in the coming slides. Okay, so this is just the give you the a short glimpse of the current glucose measuring techniques. So why non-invasive? These are the pretty points which are clear. Continuous monitoring is very essential part in diabetes management, and it can be easily done using non-invasive technique. It could be implementation of painless process, no danger of blood transmitting diseases, and avoids risk of infection. Optical properties, NI technique actually is implemented using optical properties. This domain is being really explored right now, because we all know that we need systems that can be incorporated in the form of electronic devices, and the optical sensors are really easily available in market. So based on with the help of these sensors, if we could really design glucometers, then we can actually provide a low cost solution. Okay, so optical based techniques. Another actual reason of going into the optical domain is the optical properties of the glucose are rather specific. Okay, and hence these methods have shown better correlation with blood glucose content. So we have I'll move towards pulse plethysmography. NR spectroscopy, as I said, these spectroscopy techniques, the systems that are being implemented in, they are implemented in laboratories, and they cannot be incorporated in telemedicine development. So let us see what is the advantage of this photoplethysmography, and especially the pulse photoplethysmography technique. Okay, just going describing about the significance of pulse. Why did we choose move using this pulse technique? So during ancient times, we all know the pulse was the only signal that was used by the vaidyas to diagnose any kind of disease. In Ayurveda also, pulse plays a very vital role to analyze various body signals. It reflects significant information as per Ayurveda, and this is the very important point. Pulse is the simplest non-invasive technique that can be captured from the human body, and if we could make use of this signal, then most of the vital parameters are actually you know got through the pulse signal. And if we are able to find out glucose from this, then easily more we can implement a good health monitoring care system. So using an optical sensor, pulse plethysmograph can be obtained from the subject. So here I explain to you the principle of photoplethysmography approach. Here you can see that this sensor, you can say it is an SpO2 sensor or a photoplethysmograph sensor. Okay, it is actually currently being used to detect the changes in the blood volume. During this pandemic situation, we all have come across the use of an pulse oximeter, which actually displays you the oxygen saturation level that is present in the blood. Okay, along with this, you could also observe what is the pulse count or the heart rate that is present in your system. Okay, so these vital parameters, even you can at an extent try to implement a blood pressure measuring system. I know we can just use to implement through the signal, we can derive what is the systolic blood pressure. Currently there is no score of parameter like diastolic is not yet been found, but yes, systolic blood pressure can be described using this technique. So heart rate variability is actually being currently diagnosed through this pulse plethysmograph signal. And we can say that heart rate variability and diabetics are closely associated. They have interlinking. Even BP is one of the heart rate variability which affects heart rate variability, and in diabetics these both are closely related. So from the literature we came to a conclusion that why couldn't we explore this technique for estimating the blood glucose. Now here you can see the principle of operation is that a PPG signal is obtained by illuminating the skin and measuring the changes in the light absorption. The light absorption depends on the every heartbeat, because the blood vessel in the finger expands and contracts. Okay, so if you record this, if you try to record the received signal across through the detector, then this is what is a pulsatile waveform that you will observe. So whenever there is a with each heartbeat the blood vessel tries to contract and relax, and at the same time if we are transmitting this light through a photo LED, through an LED, and across the photodiode we try to get the reflected signal, and if we plot this reflected signal you will observe a pulsatile waveform. And from this waveform, this signal, we try to find out the correlation between the glucose and the PPG signal. So that is what we were trying to establish over in this research work. So this is the system overview. To initially first the is the generation of a database to implement any estimation system, and therefore we first required a ppg data acquisition system that needs to be designed. And using that acquisition system we would get record the ppg signals of the subjects, diabetic and non-diabetic. I'll be explaining the database ahead. Then vgl estimation techniques. So we propose here three techniques. One is the baseline system, which is actually used to validate the data set that we have collected and the methodology. So here we have referred to the base paper, which is by Monte Morino. He has implemented similar kind of methodology and presented his results in the year 2011. So based on his research, based on his methodology, we follow the same type and implement that same methodology on our data set and validate the results. Then we propose two type of visual estimation techniques, which are frame based and single pulse analysis. At the feature level, we try to explore time and frequency domain features and substral domain features. Once the feature vectors sets are ready, the same feature vectors are then given as an input to the training networks. Here we try to analyze the performance of the training networks on our estimation technique and the feature sets. Just to find out the performance, we have used different training networks. So based on that, we'll be comparing the finding the efficient accuracy, or you can say efficiency, overall efficiency of our system. So at three levels we'll be analyzing the accuracy or performance, you can say performance of our system at the estimation techniques, that is frame based or single pulse. Then with respect to the feature level, whether we prefer time and frequency domain features or substral domain features, and then the overall the performance of different training networks for our given feature set. So in a system implementation part, this is just how we implement. We record the we created two data sets, that is the training data set and the testing data set. While recording the data, we collected the blood sample level, sugar level of the patient or the subject, noted it down, and this recording was done on the AccuCheck machine. And along with that we had collected the ppg data. So around about we collected 611 individuals data set. I will explain that ahead. And from the data sets we created some training data set and testing data set. Feature extraction process needs to be done. Pre-processing and feature extraction is carried out on the training data set, and that features have been used to train the machine learning models, NN, SVM, RF, and KRF. Once the models have been trained, then we have implemented the testing data. It is given as an input to the trained model, and we analyze the performance of the testing data set. So this is the system implementation. Now coming to the first block of my system overview, which is the data acquisition system. Okay, so here we have considered, now this SpO2 sensor actually internally consists of a pair of transmitters and detectors. So it has internally two LEDs, which are, one is the red wavelength and another is infrared wavelength. So uh, these two are actually used to find out the oxygen saturation level in the blood, but we were not interested in finding out the oxygen saturation. We were interested in the waveform, pulse ppg waveform. And so we based on this graph you can see that there are two wavelengths, red wavelength 660 nanometer and infrared wavelength, that is 910 nanometer. Okay, so we selected the near infrared wavelength, 910 nanometers, because at this wavelength you can see that the oxyhemoglobin and the deoxyhemoglobin levels and the hydroxyl content, that is, you can say that is the water content that is present in the blood. So the absorptions of the light at this wavelength is almost constant and minimal. Also, there are different layers of skin when you are transmitting the light through the epidermal layer. Then you have the tissues, you have the cells, and below these cells there are internally the cells when they absorb the oxygen content along with the heartbeat and release the content with the relaxation of the heartbeat. So during that we were seeing that at the near infrared range, the hydroxyl content, that is the water content, and the oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin contents, they show minimum absorption. You can say they are constant. Okay, so at this wavelength you can say that the glucose absorption is much dominant as compared to the other concentrations. So these parameters can be assumed to be constant, and at 900, and so in near infrared you can have a maximum absorption. And at this near infrared wavelength also shows maximum penetration through the skin in the biological tissue. So that is why we selected this near infrared uh, wavelength. Okay, and so red LED was kept off, and we used only the near infrared wavelength. So this is just a block schematic to show you it consists of a driver circuit, and it consists of the sensor and detector, a pre-processing module to convert the current into the voltage, required voltage format, and it is an interface to a microcontroller so that we can get the digitized pulses, and it can be recorded and stored in the PC. So here this system was being built by the company BioKit. We initially built the system in lab and tested to get a noise-free PPG signal. But to get have a good system design, we approached to BioKit company, which is actually having 25 years of experience in developing medical devices. So this is where we have got this system built from BioKit India. The database details now, the PPG signal acquired was using the pulse data acquisition system, and along with that, simultaneously we also recorded the BGL values through an AccuCheck machine. This data was recorded at the Jahangir Medical and Research Center, Pune, Freedom from Diabetes Center, Pune, Valavalkar Medical College, and Vishwakarma Institute of Information Technology. Physiological, some constraints while we need to collect the PPG signal. The emotional state of the patient was assumed to be better. He is in a good state of mind. Physiological parameters like blood pressure, heart rate variability, and respiration rate of the subjects are considered as constant. They did not show any kind of variations. That was what we took care before taking the data. The site of acquisition is the finger, and position of the finger is maintained in a fixed state or a stable state. The data of diabetic subjects is collected under supervision of medical experts. The very critical thing is getting the patients, collecting the data set. Generating this data was a very trivial task for us, because the data for normal range would be easily available, and getting the data for the diabetic range, that is from above 180 milligram per deciliter till 500 milligram per deciliter, was a crucial task. And we know that whenever we want to train some model networks, then we require a uniform distribution of data, and this is where we faced issues. But whatever was possible from us, we tried to collect that data. So you can see here there is variation in data. We have collected around 611 subjects data, where in the normal range it is 210 for male, 168 from female. You can see there is a varying age group. You can say in the normal range it is from 18 to 70, and in the diabetic it is from 4 to 70. But here I would like to tell you that the type 1 diabetes, which actually shows a high range of sugar values, okay, that is observed in type 1, that is juvenile diabetes. And almost children were there are some. Okay, I think so we can take the queries later on after the presentation. I will be there to give answers to your queries. Okay, so in the just coming back, I was telling that the age group, you can see the variations, because most of the higher sugar levels we could get from the children, that is juvenile, which suffered from type 1 diabetes. Okay, so these are the database details. um, then a recording of the ppg data, just to give you the brief of our system. We use the spo2 sensor. The sampling frequency of this system was 100 hertz, and the duration of the recording was around 3-minute duration. We kept a longer duration because sometimes even if there are movement in the fingers, then we can observe the artifacts. So if we have a recording of a longer duration, it would be easy to extract a good signal out of a 3-minute duration. So we extracted multiple instances of 1-minute window out of 3-minute recorded signal. Okay, then the length of 1-minute window, which was used for actually the processing part, extracting the features. We divided the window into frames. So some will be we extracted the features at the window level and the frame level. To actually selection of the windows were based on the how to actually select which is a good signal and which is a corrupted signal. We use this methodology for finding out the standard deviation of that signal. So whatever were the multiple instances that we had extracted, that each for each frame or for each signal, we actually found out the standard deviation, and which with the experimentation with different variation, we freezed the value to less than 60. And this was based on the experimentation. So we chose only those kind of window segments which had shown better correlation, not very close and not very spread out. So that is what we mathematically freezed this standard deviation less than 60. Now, coming to this data set, as I said, out of the 611, we extracted multiple segments, and I said we obtained 1900 correct window segments. Okay, so out of 1900, again we used the standard deviation method, and we separated out 1500 window segments. Okay, both diabetic and normal. So these are the 1500 window segments which were of one duration each. Out of these 1500, we segregated them into three sets, that is train set 1, 500 samples, another DB2, which is another training set, 500 samples, then a combined training set of these 1000 samples, and a test data sample of 500 samples. So this is how we created a training and testing phase. This is just to show you the histogram distribution of the 1000 samples, that is a train set db3, you can say database 3. Try to almost have a balanced distribution, just at a little bit of you can say that the higher range we tried to incorporate the higher values also. So this is the distribution, histogram distribution of the data that we had created. Okay, now just coming to the next step of processing, this is what you can observe the recorded ppg signal for pulse plethysmograph signal. Okay, we used the pre-processing technique to remove the baseline wandering, that is moving average filter, and Savitsky Gole filter, which is used for smoothing the pulse signal. So this is what after the pre-processing that you will observe is a clean and smooth pulse ppg signal, you can say, which will be now used for the feature extraction process. So as I mentioned in my overview, we plan to implement two estimation techniques, which is a frame-based technique and another is a single pulse-based technique. In the baseline system, we actually implemented the framing at 50% of overlap. So this you can see that is an S window that you can observe, the signal window, that is a 1-minute duration window which is extracted. And we will implement that we implemented it with a framing technique of 50% overlap. And actually when we were implementing the frame based technique, we tried to reduce the overlapping process to moreover see what is the effect of it on the accuracy, and we implemented this with 10% overlap. But what is the limitations of this frame based technique is that if you change the frame length, then the feature extracted, the feature vector changes. And along also when you check the end points, start and end points of the pulse, they change, then it will have an effect again on the feature vector. So this was what we actually thought of, that in the frame based technique, if we observe such kind of limitation, then can we actually overcome this? And from the signal itself, we were in a position to see that each and every pulse, if in a normal state, if we are actually taking the pulse signals, then the pulse nature should remain constant over that period. But this is not the case, because at every heartbeat, the contraction and relaxation which generates the ppg signal is not going to be the similar. Okay, so that was what we were thinking of, whether if each single pulse could be extracted and the feature of each every pulse is taken into account, then really we can have the variations. So this is what we came up with, the single pulse analysis. This is what is the research contribution, I can say, that developing this estimation technique, which is called as a single pulse analysis. So you can just observe here that 1 minute duration, each signal have been extracted, and we have fixed it through a common start point. Okay, so and you observe that there are these many variations actually in a 1 minute ppg signal. And these variations, if they are really incorporated in a correct way, then definitely the estimation accuracy can be increased. So this is the single pulse analysis technique that we have proposed and developed in this research work. So single pulse extraction. So the single pulses of each of the entire window, each pulse has been extracted based on the periodicity of the ppg signal and finding the local minima of the signal. Now, as I've explained the two techniques, frame-based and single pulse analysis, just let us discuss about the different features. We all know that it is one of the important step to find out the correlation between the target and the inputs. Okay, so time and frequency domain features, we explore what are the substral domain features. So at the feature level, we have explored these two feature sets, and let us discuss that. So time and frequency domain features for frame based technique. Okay, so as we are discussing the feature levels with two techniques, frame based and single pulse analysis, we have different feature sets. Now you can see here there are features like autoregressive coefficients, the Kaiser-Tiger energy, heart rate, spectral entropy, and log energy profile. These 5 initial features were actually mentioned in the literature survey that is I discussed by Monte Moreno, and he used these 5 features along with their statistical variations like mean, variance. Okay, so based on the statistical variations, these 5 features, he also incorporated certain features like age, body mass index, and oxygen saturation level. But we eliminated these 3 features because it would again generate a person specific dependent feature set. So we incorporated these 5 features, and as I said that we could observe that there are really time domain variations in each pulse signal. So we decided to accommodate time domain features. The literature survey in the by Moreno, the paper presented by Moreno, you can see in that he had considered only the frequency domain features. But time domain, as we can see with respect to time, there are a lot of variations in the pulse signal, and therefore we decided to incorporate the time domain features, which we introduced as pulse interval, pulse transit time, and pulse amplitude. So we found out the feature, we computed the features for this time and frequency frame based technique, which is a set of 35 features which incorporates the statistical variations also, like mean, variance, interquartile range, and skewness. Okay, so this is what we are the features for frame based. Now for single pulse analysis technique, we actually took 7 features of each single pulse. You can see that how we have computed the feature of each pulse, that is the peak amplitude 1, peak amplitude 2. Then you can see the pulse interval, you can see here the pulse transit time, the start time of the pulse, the end time of the pulse. So these are the 7 features that we have used to extract of each single pulse. Okay, and then again for that we computed the statistical parameters like mean, variance, interquartile range, and skewness. So this created a 28 dimensional feature vector. So these are the time and frequency domain features for single pulse analysis. Similarly, another most of the time, from the literature review, we observed that the researchers have they work on finding the time and frequency domain parameters or features from the signal. But the researcher Kersey ETL, he used cepstral based analysis for the classification of heart rate variability in diabetics, and ppg signal is also considered as a representation of heart rate variability. So we thought that we could explore the use of cepstral based analysis in estimating the glucose. So here this is the block schematic of how to compute the cepstral coefficients from a given signal. So the same principle we have used here to compute the cepstral coefficients. This is the pre-processing. After the pre-processing, you compute the FFT of the given signal, apply the MEL filter bank. Here we have used the MEL filter bank with 15 coefficients. Take the log of those MFB, compute the DCT, and based on the DCT, if you observe here, the number of coefficients, we used only first 8 to preserve the coefficients, rest all coefficients had almost 0 values. So the variations above 8 coefficients were of less importance. So first 8 coefficients we preserved. Okay, so these are the 20 we computed the mean, variance, and standard deviation of also of these 8 cepstral coefficients. So to summarize the features for time and frequency domain, with frame based technique we had a feature set of 35 features. Time and frequency domain features for SPA technique, which is 28 features, and cepstral features for both frame and single pulse technique was of a 24 dimension. Now once the feature extraction has been done, we will see the performance of this estimation technique and feature using these different training networks, neural network. Initially all the experimentation that we did with the help of neural networks. So with different input layers and neuronal configurations with layer 1, layer 2, then finally we could compute with 3 hidden layers, and the neuronal configurations were 30, 20, and 10. Then with using SVM, random, we analyzed the performance of the systems first initially using neural network, and then we explored with different networks like SVM, random forest, and k-fold random forest. So this is how we computed the performance with the different training and testing configurations. Initially, you would see that if we have used DB1, which is of 500 samples as a training network, then we test it with DB2 and DB test. So here we can say that we have used only 1/3 of the training of the data set for training, and the 2/3 of the data is used for testing. Similarly for DB2, and lastly, we say that the 2/3 of the data set is used for training and 1/3 of the data set is used for testing. So this is just to show you the GUI system that we have developed. This is for the real-time operation. This is for selection of the algorithms, neural network training, and this is for estimation. Okay, just to show you the feature vector extraction. Now, experimentation results. Initially, I said that we have used 29 dimensional feature vector for the baseline system. The features initially what we said were 33 features were proposed by Moreno, but we excluded 4 features and similar 29 dimensional features were computed on our data set. The performance measures in BGL estimation is coefficient of determination, the Spearman's coefficient of correlation, Pearson's coefficient of correlation, and Clark error grade analysis. So this is here I present the baseline system implementation, which is only of 29 features. As I discussed were autoregressive coefficients, Kaiser-Tiger energy, heart rate variability, then spectral entropy and log energy profile. So you can see that compared to the reference where he used 33 features, we just excluded the person specific dependent features, but we could observe the improvisation in the R square, that is the coefficient of determination. Okay, so you can see that just by excluding 4 dependent features, we actually got the R square. Now, this is the correlations coefficients obtained, Spearman and Pearson coefficients. Now, to best to provide the overview of your performance, we actually used the Clark error grade analysis, because in while we are estimating the glucose levels, the levels if you compute 80 and 81, it is one and the same. So how can the performance of the system can be best explained is using the Clark error grid analysis. So this is the Clark error grid analysis, which is actually used clinically to and a standard practice to test the performance of your system. So class A, if your estimated value lies in this class A, it shows that the prediction is within the 20% of the reference sensor, plus and minus. Okay, so this is the 20% range in which your estimation lies. Class B, which contains prediction which are more than 20% away from the reference sensor. Class C represents the false positives, they either of hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia. Class D, which typically indicates that the prediction would not be able to detect hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. And class E, which consists of prediction errors that confuse hypoglycemia for hyperglycemia or vice versa. So if you see here in the baseline system, what we observed is the improvisation. We saw that improved accuracy. R square is improved as compared to zero point 0.4, and this is the Clark error grid analysis, where you can see that out of 500 samples, okay, so for DB2, 500 samples, 379 were correctly estimated, and in this 369 were correctly estimated in class A. So this is just the this is with the trained network database 2, that is class DB2 is trained and DB1 and DB test is tested. And here you can see the combined database DB3 which is used, and DB test is being tested. So to just this is I represent here the comparative analysis of BGL estimation with various training networks. So with neural network we got 0.71, with SVM we got in the range of 0.78, random forest we got 0.83. We had also tried with trees, which was 0.86, and k-fold random forest we got the highest as 0.93. So this was done on a training data set, which is DB3, which consists of 2/3 data and 1/3 for testing. So the overall observation of the baseline system, comparing with the results obtained in literature, R square value obtained by the system was higher. Though the data sets were different, we could have validated the methodology on our data set. So the Pearson coefficient also we saw it was ranging from 0.83 to zero point 0.9, and using this we got, using NN we got an improvisation. Okay, so this is for baseline system. Now to present, as I discussed initially also, coming to the BGL estimation performance, we evaluate it on three technique basis: effectiveness of the technique, effectiveness of contribution of the features, and effectiveness of training networks. So now we'll compare the techniques. So we will compare frame based and single pulse with time and frequency domain features that we have computed. So this is what we will compare, and with the different training networks. So this is one of the flow comparison between the frame based and single pulse technique with time and frequency domain features with different training networks. So this is where you can see that compared to the baseline system, definitely you can see that the addition of the time domain features like pulse interval, pulse transit time, and pulse amplitude in frame based technique, we would see the improvisation in the R square. And with the features that we proposed with single pulse analysis, so time domain features that we proposed here, that has shown a lot of impact. So SPA technique along with those time and frequency domain features, you can see that we have got really improved accuracy, 0.91, 0.94, and with maximum of k-fold. You can also see here the estimation accuracy is improved in class A, where out of 500 samples, this is I'm showing with relating to db3, because we during the testing purpose we could see that db3 performed well, because the reason is very clean, that it incorporated 1000 samples, which had you can say a proper distribution of db1 and db2, which resulted in db3. And this is why we got good results for database 3 and testing on DB test. So this is where we I show that you can observe that a very good estimation accuracy is got through SPA technique, that is single pulse analysis, and you can see that the performance is better for SVM as well as k-fold random forest. So just to show you here the R square that you observe for SPA technique using k-fold random forest, and this is the Clark error grid analysis. So you can see here there are no data points which lie in the zone C, E, and D. You can see that most of them lie in class A and some lie in class B. But class A and class B, both the ranges are clinically accepted. Okay. So to conclude for this technique, as compared to the frame-based technique, single pulse analysis shows improvement in visual estimation. So it has really helped the hypothesis where we mentioned that extraction of each single pulse would add up its variation. If we could incorporate correctly, it would add up to the improvement in the visual estimation accuracy. So this is where I would like to say that the k-fold random forest has shown highest prediction accuracy. 466 samples out of 500 in the test, they were estimated correctly. um, Comparison of frame based and single pulse domain analysis now using with cepstral domain features. So this is the flow where now we'll compare the use of cepstral domain features. Okay, how do they perform and how do they help? Actually, do they help in correlation between the glucose level and ppg? That is what we found out. And you can see here the with the help of cepstral coefficients along with the SPA technique, you can see that though compared to time domain, the results with respect to NN and RF are below zero point 0.9, but still they provide good correlation. But you can see the similar improved correlation or accuracy in terms of determination for SVM and KRF. Okay, so this is again another domain there, which also shows that this feature can also be used in glucose determination. Okay, so this is the graph Clark grid analysis for the SPA technique for k-fold using cepstral domain features. So overall performance of cepstral domain features using SPA technique, you can see that the R square value almost lies in the range of 0.89 to 0.95. SVM here shows highest prediction accuracy. In the literature, the accuracy was mentioned by Monte Moreno, where the value was R square equal to zero 0.9, and we have got an r square equal to 0.95. So again we have using k-fold random technique. So k-fold random forest was the results that were mentioned, and we have improvised it to 0.95 using single pulse analysis along with substral domain. So the results obtained confirms that the substral features identified in this SPA technique justify the significance and their contribution in the same manner with different training networks. So as compared to frame-based techniques, single pulse analysis shows improvement in visual estimation accuracy. So just to give you the comparative performance analysis with the other references, this is what was our proposed work, technique, different models, and the R square that we have achieved, it is 0.95. And also you can see with different data sets, that is with different subjects. This was what is the reference paper that I was discussing throughout my session, and the accuracy obtained is zero 0.9. Again, I would like to tell you that when they had used 410 subjects, they use 90% of the data for training and 10% data for testing, whereas we have tested in all three different types using one-third data for training and two-third data for testing, and the vice versa. So that is what we have actually got good estimation. So concluding, effectiveness of visual estimation. From the result, it is observed that SPA shows better performance. So the hypothesis that using SPA, the variation of each pulse in the data gets captured properly, was justified. Contribution at the feature level, I can say that both the results have shown comparable result. Both the feature sets have shown comparable results. So one can also explore the substral features. The advantage of this is there is reduction in dimensionality. And third is effectiveness of training networks. So use of standard training parameters of networks to implement visual estimation for given set of feature vector and feature extraction. We have not explored the different parameter settings with respect to the training networks. So one can also explore to change the settings of the neural network modules and try to obtain better accuracy. So one can fine tune these networks and attain better accuracy for the given set of features and techniques. So to conclude, we have tried to present a novel approach of single pulse analysis, a novel features for the estimation, that are the substral domain features for the estimation of visual values, and by a careful selection of feature extraction technique, features and trained models, one can achieve the best visual estimation with good amount of balanced PPG data. These are the publications. The results of the time and frequency domain comparison for frame-based and single pulse analysis have been published in this journal, Sadhana. Blood glucose estimation through various non-invasive techniques. This was a review paper that I have presented. Two international conferences where we have presented the comparison of non-invasive blood glucose estimation using various regression models and non-invasive blood glucose estimation using pulse-based substral coefficients. This is what we have published our patent, and it is still in the examination process. Thank you. Thank you all. Now we can go to the questions. I'll just, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there's a question.
Hmm.
What other diseases can be diagnosis of other diseases done from PPG?
As I said that the heart rate variability is a common diagnostic. PPG can be easily used as a diagnosis purpose for heart rate variability, ECG. So you can say that if you correlate your PPG signal along with the ECG, then you can use it for ECG heart rate variability. So any cardiovascular disease can be easily in the first initial case, it can be used as a diagnostic purpose. Okay, so the pulse transit time, the peak positions of the pulse are equivalent to the heart rate, I can say as an R to R interval, that is similar to if you try to find out the pulse interval between the two peaks. So that is one of the major important feature. And if that R to R interval is changing, then definitely it indicates that there is a problem in the cardiovascular system. Second is lung capacity. As we have seen that SpO2 level detection, this can be easily diagnosed, as we have seen that 98% or 99% is the SpO2 level that is required. But with the help of this pulse signal, I don't say as a PPG, but yes, you from the PPG signal itself you find out the current, that is ratio of the currents when they are transmitted through the red wavelength and NR wavelength. So the ratio of the currents are being computed and they are mapped to the response level, which is then calibrated in terms of the oxygen saturation. So that is another important parameter that can be used for diagnosis. Anything else? Currently, these two, along with the heart rate or pulse rate, they are used. Blood, again, blood flow or blood volume detection can be done using the PPG signal. I hope I have answered.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yeah,
you, ma'am.
yeah,
Ma'am, there's one more question.
yes.
Which type of domain features are optimum for better accuracy?
It actually depends upon the nature of the signal. As I said in the pulse domain, though initially from the reference we were able to find out the frequency domain features, um, um, but though if the time domain features were not extracted, then we could see that the accuracy could not be improved. Okay, so it actually depends upon the nature of the signal, and in our case, based on the pulse features itself, we could see that time dimensions were changing with every instant of time, and that really needed to be incorporated. So um, it's better we incorporate both time and frequency domain features. Again, I say it depends upon the nature of the signal. What type of nature are you capturing? And in biomedical systems, if you see that both the parameters are very important, time domain features as well as frequency domain features, because these are low signal features. Whatever you acquire from the human body, the all these signals are low frequency signals. Okay, so extracting information from low frequency signals is a trivial task. So we incorporate frequency domain features also. So in our case, I would recommend that make use of both time and frequency domain features. So even in SPA, though we said that we have taken only time domain features, but we have incorporated energy signal also. So it's a blend of time and frequency domain features. Anything else?
Ma'am, can you kindly suggest any book reference material for the design and development of embedded hardware for medical devices?
I have actually used Carr Brown biomedical book, and second is by Cromwell, and third is by Khanpur. So Carr Brown actually helps in biomedical instrumentation. So if you want to design any biomedical system, then definitely you can refer to book which is Carr Brown. So initial level of how analog signal can be acquired with different sensors, the requirement of particular amplifiers, and are well suggested with the Carr Brown in the book Carr Brown. That is where if you want to refer to biomedical instrumentation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, we are done with the question and answer and question session.
Okay.
Ma'am, on behalf of JSPM's Rajarshi Shahu College of Engineering and Department of ENTC, I would like to take this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and presenting us your research work and sharing your information of PPG with us. And thank you for answering all the questions in a very easy and beautiful manner. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me once again. And I hope I could present whatever my research work is to all the other research scholars, and hope they get motivated to work in this domain. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
We may conclude for today, and participants will meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. So join 15 minutes before the session so that we may start on time. So thank you all. We may conclude for today.
Can I leave, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.